Have you ever wondered how a 200,000-ton cruise ship can possibly stay upright without sinking or tipping over? That's what we're going to find out today. Imagine it. A cruise ship leans into a turn while thousands of people are walking the deck, drinks full at the bar, nobody holding on to anything. Why doesn't the structure just flip over? A hull that's mostly hollow, carrying a building 20 stories tall, shrugging off 40-foot swells, while someone 2 decks up gets a massage and never notices the weather. Something is actively fighting to keep that ship level every second it's at sea. Once you understand what that something is, you won't look at a cruise ship the same way again. There are 3 layers to this story. The first is the invisible battle happening below the waterline every time the ship rolls. The second is the machinery engineers built to fight the ocean in real time. The third is the limit, the number that decides whether a ship comes back upright or doesn't. So let's start with the obvious question. Why doesn't a ship this top-heavy just roll over? Because your eyes are lying to you. Look up from the dock and you see 18 decks of cabins, restaurants, glass balconies, rising far above the waterline. Your brain reads that as top-heavy. But almost none of the weight that matters is up there. The engines, fuel tanks, generators, and ballast systems sit as low in the hull as physically possible, often below the waterline. The engine room isn't an afterthought. It's the foundation the rest of the ship sits on. While your eye goes to the rooftop bar, the mass that actually decides whether the ship stays upright is hiding down where you can't see it. Naval architects call this the center of gravity. On a well-designed ship, it sits far lower than the visible structure suggests. Compare that to a second point, the center of buoyancy, the average location of the upward water pressure pushing back against the hull. When the ship sits level, those 2 points line up. When a wave pushes it into a tilt, they separate, and that gap is where the story begins. As the ship rolls to one side, more of the low side hull pushes into the water, and the center of buoyancy shifts toward that side, away from the point directly under the center of gravity. Gravity pulls down through one point, buoyancy pushes up through another, and that offset creates a righting moment, a rotational force shoving the ship back toward level. The wider and lower the hull, the stronger that force. It's the same reason a weighted toy always rights itself, no matter how hard you knock it over, just scaled to 200,000 tons. Engineers have a number for how strong that force is, metacentric height, one of the most guarded calculations in the ship's design. Too low, and the ship rolls slowly, staying vulnerable to the next wave before it finishes recovering from the last. Too high, and it snaps back so fast, passengers get thrown, and cargo breaks loose. Every cruise ship sits in a narrow band between those extremes, stable enough to always recover, gentle enough that 9,000 people can walk the deck without feeling the correction happen. Which brings us to the machinery. Physics explains why a ship should return to level. Controlling that physics in a live storm, with weight shifting as fuel burns and water moves in the tanks, takes machines. The first is ballast. Deep in the hull, tanks fill with seawater or pump, empty on command. This isn't just side-to-side balance, it's active tuning of the center of gravity. As a voyage burns through thousands of tons of fuel, weight distribution shifts, and left alone that could slowly raise the center of gravity and erode stability. Ballast water compensates, adding weight low in the hull exactly where it's needed. It's a tightrope walker's pole, except this one weighs thousands of tons, and the walk lasts weeks. Ballast is slow. It fights gradual shifts, not a wave hitting the hull in real time. For that, ships use stabilizer fins, 2 retractable wings, roughly car-sized, mounted below the waterline on either side of the hull. Retracted in calm water, extended once the sea moves, controlled by a computer reading motion sensors and adjusting fin angle several times a second. As the ship starts to roll one way, the fins tilt to push back the other way before the motion ever reaches the passengers. It works like airplanes' flaps, controlling roll through water instead of altitude through air. On a rough day, fins can cut rolling motion by more than half. Some ships add an anti-roll tank, a U-shaped tank holding thousands of gallons split between two chambers on opposite sides of the hull. It sounds backwards, loose water in a ship that's already rolling. But the tank is built so the water inside moves out of sync with the ship's roll, working against the motion instead of with it. As the hull tips one way, the water is still catching up from the other direction, and that lag cancels part of the roll. Modern ships also monitor pitch, roll, and weight distribution constantly, feeding that data to the bridge and the stabilizer systems at once. If a storm builds ahead, crews don't just react. They change course to take swells at an angle rather than broadside, where rolling is worst, and adjust speed so the hull isn't slamming into every wave at full power. None of it is instinct, it's calculation, keeping the gap between the center of gravity and the center of buoyancy working for the ship instead of against it. Which brings us to the limit. For all this engineering, there's a real angle past which none of it helps. Every ship has an angle of vanishing stability, the tilt beyond which the righting moment stops working in the ship's favor and starts working against it. Up to that point, the further the ship rolls, the harder it gets pushed back upright. Past it, buoyancy can no longer overcome gravity, and the tilt pulls further instead of correcting. On a modern cruise ship, that angle is deliberately engineered to sit far beyond anything the vessel would ever meet in real conditions, often around 60 to 70 degrees. So extreme that almost nothing on board would still be standing long before the ship gets close to that extreme angle. That's not an accident. It's why the hull is built wide, why the heavy machinery sits low, why ballast and stabilizers run continuously through every voyage, to keep the ship nowhere near that threshold. A passenger in a genuine storm might feel a sway and nothing more, while the physics keeping them upright run through calculations they'll never know exist. Naval architects obsess over fractions of a degree years before a ship's keel is laid, testing scale models in wave tanks that compress decades of ocean conditions into weeks of trials. A cruise ship isn't stable because it's massive. Massive things fall over. It's stable because every ounce of that mass is placed with intention, low in the hull, balanced against buoyancy, corrected in real time by machines built for exactly this job. It isn't fighting the ocean by being stronger than it. It's fighting the ocean by understanding it better than the ocean understands the ship. So the next time you're at the rail at one of these massive cruise ships, remember what's happening beneath you. Ballast tanks holding thousands of tons of water, exactly where engineers decided it needed to be. Fins the size of cars flexing dozens of times a minute, answering a wave before you feel it. A center of gravity and a center of buoyancy locked in a negotiation that never stops for the length of the voyage. You're not standing on something that happens to stay upright. You're standing on something engineered to never let you feel how hard it's working. Now I want to hear from you. Does knowing what's happening beneath your feet make you feel safer in a storm? Or does knowing how close that vanishing angle really is make it worse? Tell me in the comments. Me, and I think I talk for a lot of you, or at least a few, would be interested to hear your opinion as well. And if you feel you've learned something new after watching this, drop a yes in the comments. Did you ever wonder how a 200,000-ton cruise ship could possibly stay upright? That's what we have found out today.